This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. NPR Music's Tiny Desk concerts are a huge deal. The online series nets millions of viewers for their stripped-down performances by music veterans and icons ranging from Chaka Khan, Devo, and Nile Rodgers and Chic to rising stars that include Doechii, Chappell Roan, and St. Louis native Jordan Ward. For the last year, another proud St. Louisan has been at the helm of the now global Tiny Desk music and pop culture phenomenon. That's Bobby Carter. Bobby is host and series producer for NPR Music's Tiny Desk concerts. He's also a Tiny Desk concerts judge, which means he's part of the search for the next big act in music. And he's now a guest on our show. Joining us from D.C., Bobby, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
What's up, Elaine? You should see my face. I'm like grinning from ear to ear. That was like perfect. Like the way you explain like the lineup of artists, the breadth of what we do, that was like, ooh, like chef's kiss. Nice to meet you.
Well, we are certainly not done. So, Bobby, we have just met, but I know two things about you. You love St. Louis and you love music. How is it that the latter started?
Well, that started in St. Louis. My uncle, my first memories of actually music doing something to me and me really having a connection with music is riding around with my uncle. He's a drummer. He used to drum in a few bands, a few local bands in the city. But he always used to take me with him to different places, and I would ride in the car with him, and he would blast the music. He was a big classic rock guy, so he would listen to anything from like Kiss, Creedence Clearwater Revival to you name it. He played a little bit of everything, but my first real memories were watching him speed down the highway, blasting music, drumming on his steering wheel, and just playing all types of music. And then from there, I started to form my own relationship with music. By the time I got to middle school and high school, I started delving into DJing with one of my partners out there. Mm-hmm. And that was the one thing that lit the flame inside of me. It was always, it's been music for as long as I can remember. Mm-hmm. And it started in that city, in the city of St. Louis.
What are a couple of the first records that you had?
Yeah. Well, my mom, we had tons of records in the basement. So the first couple of records, I'll never forget, it was a Rufus and Chaka Khan album. Mm-hmm. It was the record where when you open up the vinyl and you saw her sitting on like this big couch that looked like a set of lips. So I was always playing that. I was always playing Friends and Strangers by, God, I draw a blank, Friends and Strangers, but Whitney Houston was always being played in the house. My mom was obsessed with Rapture by Anita Baker. So much, a lot of Luther Vandross, a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire, and of course, tons of Stevie Wonder.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned high school earlier. Mm-hmm. I moved to St. Louis about 10 and a half years ago. Mm-hmm. And I know how much St. Louisans love to ask this question. Yeah. And there's a reason I'm asking it. Where did you go to high school, Bobby?
That is the question. If you don't ask that question when you confront someone from the city, then I don't know if you're from St. Louis. But yes, I am a proud graduate of Riverview Gardens High School, class of 1996. For the most memorable years of my life. Some of the greatest years of my life. Some of my lifelong friends went to school with me in Riverview. Riverview Gardens. That was where I came up.
So while you were a student there, and this is why I asked that question, not just to get some points with you, I've found that my music tastes haven't changed all that much since my high school days and maybe like early college. Mm-hmm. Would you say that your personal music tastes were pretty developed by the time you left Riverview Gardens, or did you continue to dive into different genres over time?
It was pretty developed. It wasn't completely developed. And the way I think in terms of music and music discovery, I don't think it's ever fully developed. I've always have this quest to discover and learn. But for my age, where I was in high school, it was definitely developed, because what happened was, at that time, during what I like to call the golden age of hip hop, it was very sample heavy.
Yeah.
So hip hop was my through line to jazz, to psychedelic rock. And that's when I started to dig more into those genres. So, it really, like, the real quest for discovery and peeling back the layers, it started with hip hop. It really opened up the doors to learn more and get more into people like Ahmad Jamal, people like, of course, Miles Davis, and people like Steely Dan, and like I really started to learn more through hip hop. But it was more developed than your average high school kid, I like to think.
Mm-hmm. And to honor the 50th anniversary of hip hop in 2023, I understand that you celebrated St. Louis's contribution to the genre in a multimedia series called All Rap is Local.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that hip-hop heads are finally starting to, as producer Maya Northfleet would say, to put some respect on St. Louis's impact?
Yeah, 100%. I think that Missouri, St. Louis, we sit right in the middle, literally in the middle of the country. And especially during the time when I came up, we would pull influences from so many parts of the country, East Coast, West Coast, Southern. And it was always there. The talent is always there. I think the city now more than ever has so much talent to offer. But it was such a, kudos to our team for putting that series together. But I absolutely had to raise my hand to put on for the city, because there's a storied history there. And I hope we were able to tell it accurately and with respect in the little time that we had. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So, Bobby, you are obviously a longtime music fan.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing work in music for quite some time. What is it that led you to music journalism and then to the work that you've done with NPR?
Yeah. I like to say that my music career started at Sam Goody in Northwest Plaza on Mall back in the day in St. Louis. That's when I started to dig even deeper into different genres, different perspectives, different sounds. Back in the day, each employee at Sam Goody, much like we do at NPR, everyone loves music overall, but there are specific genre experts, right? Of course, if a customer walked in and they wanted to learn about a hip hop or an R&B record, I was able to help them. We had a rock guy, we had a jazz person, we had someone who even knew, had a forte in classical music. So moving from there, graduating high school is when I went to college in Jackson, Mississippi, and my major was broadcast journalism, and that's when my real love for the art of journalism and the quest. I always say the quest because there's always a desire to learn. That's when it really began to be fostered. So music journalism has always sort of been the thing that I've wanted to do. My goals very, very early on were just to be on the radio in some capacity. And then once I got to Jackson State, that's when I really, really learned the business of broadcast and learned the different places where you can affect and make an impact in music journalism. So where I am now, just working with a host of brilliant journalists, I learn something new every day, and I like to think that I've made my impact in the place. But there's still so much more that I can learn. I learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm. Something that I noticed. So Tiny Desk Concerts started in 2008. And looking back at the list of the performers who are part of those concerts, I noticed that there's kind of a shift in the genres being performed. And I believe it started right around the time that you joined that team, Bobby. Am I seeing things right there regarding an expansion of genres that were included in Tiny Desk?
Yeah, humbly, there was a shift. I will also say that around that time, and we're speaking of the time between like 2013 and 2014, when the performers, the genres really began to diversify. And that was through the work of myself, but also people like Franny Kelly, who brought in T-Pain, who is really credited for changing our trajectory completely. It was our first viral moment. It was when a lot of people really discovered just how special our platform is. So yeah, there was definitely a shift around that time when I came aboard and started pitching shows that I was into, and it was a long time coming because if you go and look at the music that NPR Music covered before then, before we really started to really put diversity in action by bringing in more diverse voices and perspectives and faces and voices and stuff like that. It was the beginning of a real shift, not only in Tiny Desk but with NPR Music as a whole.
Mm-hmm. What was your first concert? The first one that you produced, Bobby?
Yeah. The first one that I produced was a group called Foreign Exchange, which is still to this day is one of my favorite groups. It's MC by the name of Fonte, and a producer from the Netherlands. His name is Nicolay. And I've been a fan of theirs since Fonte was rapping with this group Little Brother, and Fonte was helping to offered a couple beats for Little Brother to rap on, and I've been following them. And their union was really unique because they literally created an album remotely before it was a thing, before people created music virtually. They were really on the cutting edge of a new way of making music, and the music was just amazing. So that was the first show that I brought to the table, and they put on a great show. That was 11 years ago.
Right. Time moves pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
And was it difficult to book them? I mean, what kinds of challenges do you face in getting musicians to come to do a Tiny Desk performance?
That particular show wasn't difficult to book. They jumped at the opportunity just because we have a relationship. I've followed those guys for a long time. We're friends. So they jumped at the opportunity for sure. Internally, it did take a bit of convincing. Foreign Exchange wasn't the first Tiny Desk that I pitched. It was just the first one that got through. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, I understand that.
Yeah. So, and you know how it goes. Like it takes a level of convincing, especially when you're bringing new perspectives, new voices, new sounds, new songs, new energy to a platform that's used to doing a certain thing. So it took a while. It wasn't easy. There were a lot of contentious moments in boardrooms, just talking it through. There was a lot of back and forth, but there was finally a level of real trust established. I was lucky enough to work with Bob Boylan, who was one of the co-creators of the platform. I worked with him very, very early on when I started at NPR. I was his intern when he was launching his series All Songs Considered. So there was a lot of back and forth. He was protective of the brand, but ultimately we got to where we needed to be, and the change started.
I think one of the big appeals of these Tiny Desk performances is not only that the way they're performing is stripped down, but it is also a way to get to know the artists in a really special way. Music lovers, I think, are very much into that because they're getting a glimpse into what these musicians' personalities are like. A fan favorite is Mac Miller's performance, which was released just before his untimely death in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you really see Mac Miller, the man, and Mac Miller, the musician. And, you see him enjoying his friend and frequent collaborator, Thundercat. And just overall, it's a really special experience to be part of. And then you mentioned T-Pain's performance, where it seems like there were a lot of folks, including me. We learned that T-Pain, like, he can sing for real.
Yeah, 100%. Like, he can sing anything. And, like, you think about your favorite artists that you've been following for years, and you're a fan of their music, and you get to know them more musically. And for most fans, we just want to get closer. You know what I mean? As we want to see them as human beings. And in that little corner of the office, that intimate space where, the audience, which consists of NPR staffers, they're literally a few feet away. The space is so disarming that these people that you put on these pedestals and you look up to and you revel for so long, you see them as human beings. You know what I mean? And unlike, I say this all the time, unlike a late night performance, or unlike something on a morning show where they do their one song and they hop off stage, you get 15 or so minutes at the space in between songs. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. And in Mac's case, it was just these sweet little moments between Thundercat and Mac where you saw their friendship in action. You know what I mean? You saw just how close they were. You saw just this sweet moment of just joy, just innocent, unbridled joy between those two that I know that Thundercat holds really, really close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And you get those moments a lot in the space because it's all stripped down. You can't hide from anything. If you're nervous, we'll see it. If you're happy, we'll see it. If you're confident, we'll see it. So I just love that as a fan of the platform. And I feel even more incredibly blessed to get firsthand experience of these things 3 times a week.
You have a great gig.
It's not a bad gig.
Yeah.
I won't lie.
I think, what I have found in talking with performers, not just musicians, but other people who are on stage, many of them are actually quite introverted. Have you found that closeness and sort of being oneself, that has actually been either an attraction or a point of like hesitation for some of the artists you've reached out to?
Listen, I have so much respect for each and every band and artist who decides that they want to step behind that desk and perform for us. Because when I tell you it's stripped down, it's really, really stripped down. There's no tricks. What you see is what you get. What you hear is what you get. And that is really, really hard to do because, especially in today's music, there's so much to hide behind. You know what I mean? There's so many ways to doctor a sound, doctor a voice, enhance a sound, enhance a voice. None of that applies in our space. So what you get there is like a sense of humility from so many of these artists that you gotta love. It's really a leap of faith, and it's like a tightrope walk for these bands because, obviously we do some editing in post in terms of the look, and the audio is mixed in post or anything like that, but it's pretty much what you see, and you either have it or you don't. You know what I mean? So I love that these artists come in and they just, for the most part, they really, really show us who they are as humans first, and then musicians. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the main attractions for so many that watch, because you're going to see something truly unique every time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there was a pivot point? You talked about the difference, the shift in the genres, and that there was a bit of lobbying, perhaps, that you had to do, and other colleagues that you had, to diversify who was doing these performances at these tiny desks. Do you think that there was one performance that got more of those people who were on the fence about it to come over to your side?
There were a few moments, but funny enough, I wouldn't call it one of the best performances. There were things that we got right and then things that we got wrong in this show, but Gucci Mane was a real shift for us.
Oh, okay.
Because he was like the first real trapper, like real street MC that we had at the desk. And that was met with a lot of resistance at the time. He had just not long ago been released from prison, and people were really excited about hearing and seeing Gucci Mane again. He came out a new person. And again, that was a Franny Kelly production. But for us, the reason I felt like it was a shift for us, because it was proof of concept that kind of music can work and really flourish in our space. Nowadays, we don't allow backtracks, but you had Zaytoven on the piano going crazy. You know what I mean? And literally at the time, we were so new to having somebody like a Gucci Mane at the desk. He performed clean. You know what I mean? He didn't curse. And we usually let it fly. You know what I mean? But it was like, it was so new and everybody was so cautious. But that was like, for me, that was a really big shift. And the other one was when we were doing Tiny Desk home concerts during the COVID pandemic. And that time allowed us to really think about the audience that we served, and in many ways the audience that served us by coming back.
Yes.
And really programming and curating with more intent. You know what I mean? So those are the two that I can think of that really help push us forward and really reshaped what we do.
And do you think that having artists like Gucci Mane, that also then brought about a shift in who was coming to NPR and to its other programming?
Oh yeah, 100%. Tiny Desk, we garner the youngest, most diverse audience that NPR has, and no one expected for us to be where we are right now. In 2014, our YouTube page had about 175,000 subscribers. Year to date, right now where we are, we're at close to 11 million.
Wow. And
that's because we're serving an audience that is it's diverse. It's truly diverse. Like we're really putting on indie rock. We're putting on like hip hop from all different angles and perspectives and voices. Same with jazz and R&B and classical. Like we're really doing our best to try to cover as much ground as possible. The only thing we ask is that you be great at a live performance. But we aren't trying to exclude anybody. You know what I mean? So I think once the audience understood that there was somebody behind the scenes who knew what the hell they were doing in terms of curation.
Sure.
It's like, oh, how does somebody at NPR know about this one? Or wow, like NPR knows about this person. You know what I mean? Like they really started to get like there are people in and of the culture behind the scenes making these things go.
Tiny Desk, it is one of the biggest platforms for artists to get their name and their work in front of audiences that may not be hip to them yet. And in 2014, the Tiny Desk concert launched. Bobby, what was the inspiration to create a contest to perform at the Tiny Desk?
Well, as we grow, we open things up more to established artists. We'll always lend the platform to those emerging artists, but I think the idea was just to really lean in more to that, because the truth of the matter is we won't be able to say yes to everything that we want to say yes to, especially when it comes to up and comers, right? We'll still do it. You'll still see a very balanced attack on our YouTube page, but there are far more indie, unsigned, emerging acts than there are big pop stars, big successful stories. So for us, we want to create and help launch careers and create special moments through through artists that people have never ever heard of. So, thanks to this brilliant team, they came up. We always develop ideas. We're stepping it up again this year. But it's just to lend that platform and create a community of musicians, so that they jump out there. They take the leap of faith to just put themselves out there. And we honor that by, the winner gets to play a real tiny desk. We take them on tour. For the past couple of years, we've linked them with a mentor so that they have a little bit more guidance on how to navigate this crazy music industry once this big spotlight is on them. Mm-hmm. So it's just an opportunity to build a community of musicians, because it's not just about winning. We've had contestants who didn't win the contest still come and play a tiny desk. We've had contestants go on to big careers, and we had someone by the name of Sierra Farrell who performed the Tiny Desk contest a few years ago, and she has blown up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we've had winners like Tank and the Bangers and Fantastic Negrito make it to the Grammys and go on these world tours. So it's just an opportunity to really create a community for musicians and independent musicians, and help in hopes that we kind of start a real career in music.
Bobby, who are the other judges for the concert or for the contest?
For the contest, yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah.
What are the requirements?
Well, we like to have an array of experiences and points of view when we look at our judges. So we have, I'm in the fold, my partner Robin Hilton. We invite DJs from some of our member stations. And then we bring in a few industry insiders who could provide some insight. But what we've done for the past few years is we always have a few artists who have played the Tiny Desk to give their unique perspective, because those are the people who can really look at a performance and say, okay, that would work, because they've had their chance behind that desk. So, this year we have people like we have Tiny Desk alumni like La Russell for the contest, and Fouché, Hooray for the Riff Raff, and Audrey Nuna. And like I said, member station DJs like Raina. We have my boy Felix who produces Tiny Desk all the time. So we try to cover a lot of ground. So and also people who have a host of different tastes. You know what I mean?
Right.
We aren't looking for a specific genre. We're just looking for greatness, and you can find that in any genre. So yeah, just trying to cast the widest net so we can find something really good.
Mm-hmm. Is there something that ends up being kind of a tiebreaker when?
Oof.
Uh-oh.
I love that this gets more difficult every year. That means that, people are really putting their all into this contest. That means that the word is spreading. It gets tough sometimes. But some years, it's clear cut and unanimous. Last year's winner, the Philharmonic, was one of those cases. While last year was a great year for contestants, and we had at least, I can't even count. There were definitely another 20 to 30 bands that could have won it. You know what I mean? But what the Philharmonic did was just so amazing. It looked great, but there's nobody like the Philharmonic out there. So we spend a lot of time in these rooms, Every judge is extremely passionate about music. And we hash it out until we feel like we've done the right thing. And I think we've done that for the most part. Mm-hmm. This year, and I think we did it last year as well, we are going to do something called the fan favorite, where our listeners and our followers and our Tiny Desk fans can vote on the entries that they love, and we'll put the spotlight on them as well.
Mm-hmm. So, Bobby, I would like to do something that we frequently do on this show, which is to play a game. Producer Maya Norfleet is a big fan of doing these. And this game we will call Wait, Tell Me Everything, or as much as you can. Trying to get a little bit of tea about upcoming performances. So I'm going to list a handful of artists at a time, and you can say yes or no to indicate whether an act in that little grouping has a Tiny Desk concert coming up. So if there are 3 on the list coming up, you can say, yes, yes, yes,
and
so on and so forth. Okay, so here is the first group. Zach Fox, Wolfpack, SZA, NLE Choppa, Sailor.
Wow, that's interesting. This is helpful. Okay. Okay, I'll give you some tea. I don't know if many people know this. SZA came to the Tiny Desk before. She came to the Tiny Desk during the Control era, and who also, SZA got acclaimed St. Louis as well. So shout out to SZA.
Yep.
SZA came to the Tiny Desk during when she was first touring to promote Control. But unfortunately, she was dealing with some serious vocal issues.
Oh, okay.
And we tried to. She really, really wanted to get out there, and she was going under like extreme measures to try to get the performance, to try to make the performance happen. We were literally in the office. There was a line down and around the hall to get into the show. But after a couple of hours, we finally called it. But the sweetest part of it, and just a testament to her character, is that it did turn into a long meet and greet. She came out and she greeted every single person who came to see her perform. Unfortunately, we haven't made it happen again yet. But it's not for not trying.
Right.
I'm trying. Let me see. I'm thinking about a few others on there. Wolfpack is another one where I need to get that conversation started again.
We've got
so there's a strong possibility for at least 3.
Okay. Oh, so yes. All right, let's do
3 yeses.
Okay, a couple other lists here. So here's the next group. Bad Bunny, Oasis, Andre 3000, Dolly Parton, Bryson Tiller.
This is amazing. This is great because I'm thinking with each name that you're throwing out, I'm thinking like, okay, here's the thing, and I say this a lot. If you don't see your favorite artist at the desk, or someone that you love and has a legendary career, you should trust and believe that somebody, either myself or somebody on my team, has tried to make it happen.
Okay.
But it has to be a two-way street. There's a lot of people who have their favorites, and my damn DMs are anything but dry. My DMs get pummeled with stuff like this, and I love it. But there's no shortage of effort on our end to try to make this happen. So let's see. You said Bad Bunny, Dolly. Who else you say?
Oasis, Andre 3000, and Bryson Tiller.
It's about there's a couple yeses in there.
Yeah, okay. All right, next group. Kendrick Lamar, Drake, J. Cole, Metro Boomin, Future. And there are commas between these, of course.
hmm those are all our wishes.
Okay.
Kendrick, I'm trying my heart out. Same with Cole. Oh, okay. Here's some tea. Future was a no-show.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Future, but that turned into, if you go to our YouTube page, you'll see that Zaytoven has his own Tiny Desk, and that is because there was a bit of an issue getting Future to the desk. The band was there, and Abby ended up, one of the producers for that show, just said, "Hey, Zaytoven, you and the band, you guys are here. Let's make a show out of it." So that's mostly our wish, and I'm hoping. And two of those, a strong possibility at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just do a couple more here. Paris, Garth Brooks, Reggie Watts, The Muppets, Don Toliver.
We do. Reggie Watts' Tiny Desk exists. We did it way back in the day, but it lives on our YouTube page. Two maybes.
Yeah. Okay, let's do these next ones quickly. Shane Smith and the Saints, 100 Gex, Charlie XCX, Beach House, and Vampire Weekend.
Ooh. 3 yeses in there.
3 yeses.
At some point.
Okay. The penultimate group here. Tyla, Nicki Minaj, Young Gravy, Channel Trey. Oh, wait, did I do that right?
No, this is good.
Trace, I'm sorry. This is my French-Canadian coming out. So, Tyla, Nicki Minaj, Young Gravy, Channel Trace, Serpent with Feet.
One of those we're going to have this year.
Oh, okay.
Channel Trays will be awesome. I should get that going. Can you send me this list, by the way?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
This is really good.
And then we've got...
one of them is happening this year.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Yeah.
And the last group, The Weeknd, Childish Gambino, Ariana Grande, Mariah Carey, Missy Elliott.
Oh, my goodness. I've been begging Missy for a long time. I got close. I sent a tweet out that went crazy to get Missy.
Boy.
Still trying for Missy. We actually asked Mariah while she was on the road for the Christmas thing. Didn't get there. Those are mostly hopefuls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bobby, as we wrap this conversation, our conversation will be part of a new monthly music show that we're doing on St. Louis on the Air. And we're really focusing on people who are in St. Louis or from St. Louis. There's a lot of just incredible talent here. What are some words of encouragement you would give to St. Louis area artists that are getting their videos for the Tiny Desk contest together?
There's no group of people. No one sounds like St. Louis. No one. St. Louis is just such a unique place. And most of the St. Louis artists that I listen to and love, I can never pinpoint who they sound like. We're like our own planet. So, lean into that. If you are entering the contest, whether you're pitching me, lean into, the thing that makes our sound so unique. Lean into your accent. I kind of lost my accent a little bit since I've been... I've been down, I lived down south for a long time, and then I moved to the East Coast. When I go back home, I'm here and there. Where you going, bro? I get back to it, but just lean into that thing that makes us stand out from anybody from an LA or New York. When you hear someone from LA, you hear someone from New York, you can almost pinpoint it in their sound. Nashville, same thing. You name the place. So like, lean into that special thing that comes from our demographic, that comes from where we come from. And do whatever you can to stand out. Do not fall into trends when it comes to sounds. If you have a classic sound, if you're into classic hip hop or boom bap, just because that's not the thing that's marketable right now or on the radio right now, it doesn't mean that you can't put your own special twist on it. You know what I mean? So don't fall into trends. Don't follow the wave. Go against it. You know what I mean? Because that's what I look for when I'm listening to somebody. It's like, what stands out? You know, we can listen to a bunch of things all day that sound like the same thing. And I know that's cool. It knocks in the club. It's catchy. All of that kind of stuff. But I'm looking for different. You know what I mean?
Bobby Carter, thank you so much for talking with us today.
This was so much fun. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
The 2025 Tiny Desk Contest is accepting submissions now until February 10th at exactly 10:59 p.m. Central Time. You can find more details on our website. That's stlpr.org.
This episode was produced by Maya Norfleet.
Our audio engineer is Aaron Dorr. This podcast was mixed and edited by Aaron.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
The Gateway brings you the day's news each weekday from around the St. Louis region and the state capitals in Jefferson City.
Our schools are accredited. We don't need this bill.
And Springfield.
How many more years must pass before lawmakers see time is of the essence?
I'm Abby Larico. Join me each weekday for The Gateway on the STLPR app or wherever you get podcasts.